What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good week. I'm going to wait about 10 seconds and then I'm going to get into what I'm talking about. Just a little face-to-face, cell phone to cell phone talk about how the internet is already being controlled and manipulated, and regardless of what political side you tend to shift on, regardless of your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, what I'm going to say is very, very accurate. Thank you guys for joining. And before I start, I just want to say thank you so much for your love and support. It's been incredible. This is a very independent, raw movement, and your support, your likes, your shares, your comments, all that has been fueling it. So first off, I want to say thank you so much, and share this video if you agree with it at some point during it. But we're talking about the world is, Facebook is now, they're talking about net neutrality, which they're trying to pass. I'm going to get into that real quick. Net neutrality would mean that they could slow down the internet in certain portions of the internet. Say Time Warner doesn't want you on that website, they could slow it down and manipulate your traffic there, so it messes up the business. But I don't even want to get into net neutrality right now, because I want to tell you how the internet is being controlled and manipulated already. Before net neutrality exists, it's being controlled and it's being manipulated. Like I said, regardless of what you think, it might possibly be because of how it's being shifted and controlled so far. So first I want to get into social media. I'm going to go through everything. It's going to take a little while, but social media, the websites specifically that I see, Google, Twitter, and Facebook, they are all completely one-sided. Whenever they have news, a featured news story on Twitter or Facebook, it's one-sided. They'll say the story, they'll say what everyone's talking about, but then the way they describe the story is always completely one-sided. They're trying to lead you. They tell you what's going on, but they don't just say it in an unbiased direction. Like, here's what's going on, here's what some people think, here's what some people think, here's the truth. They lead you in the side. Most of the time they lead you in the side of the Democrats, the Republicans, the establishment, the globalists, the people that they want in power. They lead you, no matter if it's about the refugee crisis, the mayor of London, any situation, they're leading you in one direction. Twitter does it massively. It's no secret that the owner of Twitter, Jack, absolutely hates Trump and he's in with the Democrats. And Google, of course, the leader of Google, one of the heads, was contracted out by Hillary Clinton's campaign. So it's no surprise that they were confusing people and muddying up the flow of information since the Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton situation. Everything was one-sided. They showed the superdelegates, they confused people on how it worked, and they were trying to lead people in the direction of Hillary Clinton. And now it really is no difference. Even if you dislike the president, you feel that he's dangerous, it doesn't change the fact that they're absolutely 100% leading you in one direction on Facebook, Google, and Twitter. So even though the internet is already free, they're using the three biggest social media platforms to give out one-sided information. And if you're unbiased and you don't really pay attention to politics and you just kind of go with the flow, that flow that you're going with is leading you in one direction. And sometimes I agree with it. Most of the times I find it very, very dishonest. Another way that they're controlling the flow of information is there's millions upon billions of dollars to control your thoughts. This is not my opinion, this is fact. There's billions of dollars going into corporations, companies, front activist groups to control your mind. They're not paying billions of dollars to tell you the truth. They're not paying billions of dollars to have investigative journalists get to the truth. They're paying billions of dollars to silence investigative journalists, and that's both progressive, left-wing, and conservative, right-wing. They're spending billions of dollars to silence people. Hillary Clinton recently, after losing a $1.2 billion campaign, she is now funding a new super PAC with dark money to control the flow of information. This is what the establishment wants. The governments of the world, they already control your food, they control your water, they control the laws, they control every aspect of your life, except for the internet. So they're now spending billions of dollars to try to get involved in it. Media Matters is owned by David Brock. It's a multi-million-dollar corporation, and their job is basically to pose as anti-Donald Trump activists, and a lot of people hate Donald Trump. So, they're getting a lot of shares. They're posing as activists to lead people back to the establishment, back to the corrupt Democrats, the corrupt Republicans, the status quo politicians that we've worked so hard to try to get away from with Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, they're trying to lead the sheep right back to the slaughter with that group, and as well as others. A lot of the biggest news corporations, all of them pretty much, and I'll include Fox News, you have MSNBC, ABC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, Huffington Post. They're almost all one-sided and completely dishonest. If you want to look at their track record, people that think now that they're concerned with the environment, with social justice, they're pretending to be now because it's convenient politically for them to be like, hey, we're going to save the environment. We're for social justice. And that's great. I'm for social justice. I'm for the environment. But these specific news organizations, the ones that people keep sharing, they've led us into wars. The New York Times and the Washington Post are notorious for leading us into the war in Iraq. Same with the mainstream media. They parroted their stories. There's weapons of mass destruction. They've been caught multiple times staging fake Russia stories. And their job, like I've said 100 times, whether you personally, I know people that will agree with it, that like Donald Trump, agree with it, they don't like Donald Trump. I don't care whether you like him or not, but you have to understand all of these media organizations, their number one goal is not to help you. Their number one goal is not to get you food and help people in Venezuela and help people in Africa and help people in the Middle East. It's not to protect the environment. Their number one goal is to get Donald Trump out of power at all costs, at any cost, and to regain power themselves. Not to help you, not to help your family, not to make healthcare better. They just want power. And a lot of people are falling for the trap because people don't like Donald Trump. His rhetoric, his wording, and his actions have steered a lot of people away. And in certain cases, rightfully so. So now they're using your emotions of, oh, I don't like him. So now we know you don't like him. So they're literally, it's not just like they're saying stuff. They're spending billions of dollars to control the flow of information. And it's, like I said, it's not to stop Donald Trump's lies and to tell you the truth. They're smearing journalists. They're smearing progressive journalists like Jimmy Dore and H.A. Goodman. They're smearing anybody conservative like Michael Cernovich or Alex Jones or whoever. I don't care which ones you like or dislike. Personally, I like them all. I like to listen to everybody and see what's going on. But they're trying to control the flow of information. Before the internet, you got to understand the way to control a society, the way to control the world is by controlling people's thoughts. It's not really an opinion, it's the truth. I mean, education, our education system hasn't changed in 100 years. They teach you core basics, but the education system never teaches you how to survive, how to not be depressed, how to be happy, how to be successful, how to manage your money, how to pay taxes, how to live in the society that they created. School never teaches you that. Basic school never teaches you that, and it's not a coincidence. I mean, in my opinion, school is great, it's necessary, but it's been very controlled. So they control education. Before the internet came out, you have to understand, they controlled everything. They had the TV, and before the internet, you had news. You would watch it on TV or you'd read it in the newspaper. Who owns the newspapers? Who owns the TV? Anybody with money, they'll politicize anything. So if there's money in it, they'll jump on it. And there's money in controlling your mind in one direction, because if you can control people to feel and think a certain way, then you can control their actions and you can profit off of their actions. And it's sad, it's sick, it's disgusting, but this is what people do. It's happened long before the internet, and now that the internet is a somewhat free domain where people can control their own thoughts and say their own things and do investigative journalists, they hate that. The powers that be, they dislike that. And that's one thing Donald Trump tweeted today, he said ABC, CBS, he named, Washington Post, New York Times. He's totally, totally right. And this is the true enemy of the American people. It's not one politician. It's not one puppet politician who, stands on behest of the banks and the military-industrial complex. That's a symptom. That's one person who is the scapegoat. They go there and act like they're the president, they're all mean, or they're nice, or whatever, however they act. That's not the root of the problem. One of the main roots of the problem is the flow of information. That's what they do in North Korea. The people there are indoctrinated to the point where they're born into a system that tells you Kim Jong-un, he's God. He's the God, he's the God of everybody, and those people are like, because they're born into an indoctrinated system. it's really not different to what happens here. We're born into a similar indoctrinated system. We just have more freedoms and more rights. But now that we have those, they're using that to try to regain the flow of information. They lost the election because a lot of people liked Bernie Sanders. A lot of people liked Donald Trump. A lot of people liked Jill Stein and Gary Johnson because for the first time in modern history, they had the option to see these candidates and they decided for themselves, you know what? Even if they tell me that's not a real candidate, I like them. I like what they're saying. I'm going to vote for them. They don't like that. They hate that. So they're spending even more money after the election. They'll probably surpass the $1.2 billion they spent to stop Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. They're going to outspend that because Joe Biden's involved, Hillary Clinton's involved, Media Matters involved. You know, the ACLU is, you know, standing up and doing it in one direction. And I'm not saying to not have a discussion. I'm not saying that the environment and social justice and, you know, healthcare, all these things need to be spoken about. But what people, I think, truly need to understand, and please share or tag somebody in this that you think could benefit or would give me the time of day to even just consider it. I don't want you to agree with me. I want you to just simply consider it because you might find out that it's a reality that you just were completely unaware of. Because who logs into the internet and thinks, I bet that all of these are being controlled, and I bet my favorite news sources have $500 million contracts with the government, or my news source is owned by the second richest person in the world who has political affiliations, or wow, I didn't even know that they're spending tens of hundreds of millions of dollars to pose as activists because they know that I care about these things. So it's unfortunate that the modern day activists and the modern day human being is being manipulated in so many ways, but a way to stop that is to be conscious and aware of that. You know, no matter who the news source is, someone I trust or don't, I don't blindly believe anything because, first of all, most people just read the headlines, and 90% or so just read headlines, and most headlines purposely mislead people because they know that. And then you go into the core of the article, and it's either, you know, a little bit off, or it's completely not even lining up. It's like it's the exact opposite of what the headline is saying. But Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they recently demonetized anybody talking about politics on YouTube. You think they did that to help people? They blamed one crazy neo-Nazi racist guy, and they scapegoated. I won't even say scapegoated. He scapegoated himself by being a loser. And they're like, oh, since there's one racist person that we had ads on, now we're going to take all the ad money away from all people talking about politics. Progressives, people on the left, people in the center, libertarians, the right. It doesn't matter. They took all of the advertising money away from anybody talking about politics. And it's not a coincidence. Google, Facebook, and Twitter, they're politically invested. There's a big, giant group, and you're not in it. And Donald Trump is not in it. I'm sorry. I mean, if he is, they're doing a really good job of confusing people. And I'm not even saying you have to think he's the better option. But when have we had a president who's calling out this stuff? Like if Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin says, I like water, I'm not going to pretend to not like water just because they said it. If Hillary Clinton says, I love water, I'm not going to drown myself or deprive myself because she likes water. The truth is the truth. So I think we have to ride the truths of our president when we have a president who says all of these news are fake news. Because they are fake news. It's not him lying. It's not him trying to take away freedom of information. Freedom of information has already been stolen. And it's not a right-wing issue. It's not a racist or sexist issue. People on the left wing are finding out. I just did a broadcast with progressive news hosts. They're being smeared by these same news corporations because they want to control the flow of information. They don't care if you're right-wing, left-wing. They don't care if you want single-payer health care or free market health care. They don't care if you want to let all the refugees in or stop the refugees temporarily. They don't care. They're just pretending to care about all these things to control your mind, to regain power. They want you to believe what they say. They want you to go to the wars that they want to start and you to not question it. They brought us to Iraq. They've lied about Syria. We don't know what's going on. Who's selling weapons to who? We don't know because the news has been a giant PR team for the past 16 years. Plus, it's been a giant PR team for the politicians. And now that Donald Trump is in office, they've shifted from being a massive PR team for the president to being a massive PR team to get the president out of office. So they've completely shifted from we're going to hide all of the corruption from our president to We're going to lie to you every single day and make up fake stories in a desperate attempt to get Donald Trump out of office at all costs, and to silence progressives, and to silence libertarians, and to silence whoever. They want to control everybody's thoughts. They want to control everybody's opinions, everybody's feelings. They want to control the news. And there's nothing they hate more than somebody that's being honest. There's nothing that they hate more than somebody who's not following the status quo. When something's posted on Facebook, when something's posted on Twitter, when something's posted on Google, it's already being controlled. Forget about net neutrality. It's 100% fun. It's all a big funnel to funnel you towards them. They're going to use social justice. They're going to use race. They're going to use religion, gender, the travel ban, Sadiq Khan, Russians, Jared Kushner, Jeff Sessions, all of these people, whether they're scumbags or they're good people, it's a big funnel. Everything they say, and it's so obvious to me. When I click on a story, I'm like, oh, I want to read about that story. It doesn't explain it in an unbiased, like, hey, this is what these people think. It says, hey, it's like, here, let me lead you in the direction of what we want you to think. Every headline, every social media news source, there's multi-million-dollar corporations now owned by politicians and owned by news corporations to pose as internet activists and to pose like millennials. They're like, hey, here's a GIF you might like. Here's a video that you might like. Like, here, we know it's shareable. Like, there's so much money invested in controlling your thoughts and controlling your opinions. The greatest thing I could say is to be a free thinker. And I have many free thinking friends that we don't agree on every issue. We disagree and agree, but I love those people because they keep me centered and I keep them centered in a way that's not being manipulated. And I think a lot of people that follow me clearly know that, but please share this or tag a friend to let them know that regardless of how they feel politically, it's not an opinion. The internet is being controlled, and there's billions of dollars invested in controlling the narrative, to bringing it back to when we just had radio or news or what the government said, what the agency said, and anybody else is a conspiracy theory, or they're a liar, or they're this and that. The control of information is very, 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 very real. And the greatest thing you could do is just think for yourself. And people are already doing that. The average person is winning. I mean, Brexit happened, Donald Trump happens, Jeremy Corbyn might happen. There's chinks in their chain of this one world government that they've controlled everything for so long, and they've started with education, putting people in a box. If you're creative in school, it's the worst thing. They don't want you to be creative. They want you to just study the test and do the work and go to work and do what you're told and listen to this news and start this war. F it. Let's get this lying politician who smiles to us and starts more wars. That's all changing right now because of the internet. Absolutely. And there's a huge attempt to refunnel that, and it's happening now, and to be honest, it's working. There's millions of people retweeting corrupt politicians. There's millions of people who retweet these fake front activist groups who are really, propaganda control machines, and they smear intelligent, independent, free-thinking people from left, right, and central sides. It's happening as we speak. It happens every single day. I've been blessed thus far. I mean, nobody really bothers me. Much love to those organizations. I'm not a threat. I'm not your enemy. It's all love. I think we can all benefit from the truth. I think we could all benefit from dialogue and discussion, because even these front groups, millions of people already know about it. When they post, they might get a lot of shares sometimes, but they also have a lot of backlash, because in the age of the internet, you can't fool people like you used to. So I think everybody could benefit a little bit from honesty and dialogue, no matter what side you're on. I think the issues that are most pressing and sensitive to you should have a discussion with somebody from the other side, because you might realize they're not a snowflake, they're not racist, they're sexist and xenophobic. They're the same as you just don't see eye to eye. And when you talk about these things, unfiltered by what the news is trying to shift you in one direction, you might see that they know a little more than you do, you know a little more than they do, and you could benefit from the knowledge and opinion and perspective that they have. So much love. Thank you for joining. I'm going to post my links below. And thank you guys again so much for your support. Let me know what you want me to talk about, and I'll be back with some live streams and some planned out box videos with proof and whatnot later this week. Thank you.